Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. PNP chairman and 3 of the vice presidents within the party have resigned from their substantive posts. Capri calls on government to ensure financial inclusivity among the most vulnerable. And later in sports, Reggae Boyz hunt second win in CONCACAF Gold Cup against Guadeloupe this evening. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. The People's National Party's vice presidents Damian, Crawford, Wykeham, McNeil and Mikhail Phillips, along with party chairman Phillip Paulwell, have resigned their positions with immediate effect. Vice President Mikhail Phillips, who was recently nominated, has also decided to withdraw his nomination for re-election. Now, in a release, the members stated that their decision was based on the risk of another internal election before the wounds of the last presidential election were adequately healed. Now, the release further stated that despite all reasonable efforts to broker a platform of unity, there were otherwise covert attempts to sabotage the goal of peace and harmony with a plan to hoard the available positions in line with previous public statements made by party leader Mark Golding, who pronounced a lack of trust for persons who did not support him in his campaign and his preference to surround himself with only individuals who overtly endorsed his candidacy. Now, joining us to dissect this major developing story is senior producer, program host and experienced political reporter Dion Jackson Miller. Dion, a major development in an already fractured People's National Party. Just how significant a news is this?
It's hard to underplay or to downplay the significance of this, Giovanni. It was just 8 months ago that Mark Golding was elected the new leader of the People's National Party. He came into that position having just suffered the PNP a bruising loss in the election. Now, I did speak to the General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell. He said he can't comment at this time except to say that there are wide-ranging discussions going on, and later in the afternoon we'll be able to talk with him again. I can tell you from our soundings, it seems as if this has come as a surprise to the leadership. You mentioned, for instance, that Vice President Mikhail Phillips has decided to withdraw his nomination. It was just 1 day ago that Mikhail Phillips, in fact, on his Twitter page was proclaiming the fact that he had just been duly nominated and he looks forward to serving again. So there are all kinds of wheels within wheels going on here. One of the most significant parts of this, certainly for the leadership of the PNP, would be the part of the statement that speaks to disunity, and the sentence that says the level of disunity has deepened since the internal election, with the victor not acknowledging that unity is the responsibility of the victorious. I can tell you there are a number of moves that Mark Golding has made that came in for a lot of criticism. For instance, in the Senate, where he replaced Donna Scott Motley, who by all accounts had been doing an exceptional job as a leader of opposition business, with Peter Bunting, who is of course his close confidant, and relegated Donna Scott Motley to the deputy position. A lot of people saw that as a wrong move, as an indicator of the fact that he was elevating the people who supported him, and rather than focusing on unity and building unity.
But to even give more context, Dion, just yesterday news came that Mandeville Mayor Donovan Mitchell, the PNP's Donovan Mitchell, was resigning his position, and then at last its efforts by senior members got him to change his mind. What does this say then about the leadership of Mark Golding?
Well, it's this biggest test yet that he's facing, and it's one that he is going to have to pass, if we're using test parlance, if the party is to have any reasonable chance of looking like a viable opposition in any recent time to come.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Dion Jackson Miller there, our senior program producer and program host, as well as experienced political reporter. We'll obviously be continuing to track this story as it develops throughout the day, and of course we'll have more in primetime news at 7. To other news, 84% of grade 6 students who sat the primary exit profile examination this year were placed in a school of their choice. Education Minister Favour Williams made the revelation at a press briefing moments ago.
31,479, or 84.44% of students, were placed in one of their preferred schools. As you will recall, since 2015, parents have been given the opportunity to indicate 2 additional school choices to the standard 5 that they had in the past. 4,315, or 11.58%, of the students were placed in secondary level schools that are in proximity to the schools they currently attend. A further 778 students, or 2.09%, were placed manually in secondary level schools in proximity to the address they submitted at registration.
Now, the placement score for students was based on 5 tests.
First would be the grade 4 literacy, the grade 4 numeracy, the grade 4 PEP performance task in mathematics, the grade 4 PEP performance task in science, and then this year in 2021, the grade 6 ability tests.
And we'll have more details on this story in primetime news at 7. In a TVJ News follow-up, the 10-year-old boy who was shot in the head by gunmen in Arnett Gardens, St. Andrew on Thursday has died. He has been identified as Jaheim Bogle, a student at the Irish Jelly Primary School. Now, on Friday morning, angry residents took to the streets demanding justice.
I have no fire to shot them, sir. You tell me, say you not have no heart, you not have no mother. And where you come from, sir? But done dead already, and I say if you want to see me and kill me, then no problem. Yeah. But me the mother attack. Because I have 2 daughters and 2 grandsons. And the artist in the middle on the scene when it
Cause she panic all now, she a ball for her friend. She and him did stand up side and side and them kill a look boy. Where's Mark Golden? All know him not coming at jungle top. All know. We don't want him back in there, we not vote again.
The tragic shooting happened about 5 p.m. in a section of the community known as Top Jungle. It's understood that the boy was sitting on his bicycle close to a group of men and other children in the community when a car drove up and the occupants fired several shots at them. The child's father, who was nearby, rushed to the scene to save Jaheim, but he was also shot during the incident. The gunmen sped away along Collie Smith Drive. Now, there is a call for the government to do more to ensure financial inclusion among the most vulnerable. This after the latest report from the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, revealed that Jamaica's social safety net failed during the pandemic. Sandy Williams reports.
Approximately 500,000 people received financial aid from the government to ease the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. 57% of Jamaica's households saw a reduction in income at the onset of the coronavirus in March 2020 to September that same year. The Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, says an estimated 200,000 people were not able to access the monetary aid because they are undocumented. A
big barrier to them being financially excluded is the high documentation that is required. Many of these persons don't have an identification to begin with, which is the initial barrier. They also lack proof of address.
Director of Research at CAPRI, Diana Thurburn, says the issue of undocumented citizens is not new to Jamaica.
This has been a long-standing issue that we have been grappling with for years, not just at Capri, but broadly speaking of how to get people better registered, better documented. It's come up even in the citizen security studies that we've done. And when we looked at the ZOSOs, the first thing that the ZOSOs did was to get people TRNs.
The issue also spans among small and informal businesses.
They lack structure, right? They don't have the books, the accounting books. So them being able to formalize their business is a big hurdle. And they also lack the financial resources to do so.
Therefore, the most vulnerable are usually left out on benefits from social programs. It's why Capri says Jamaica's social safety net is ineffective.
We have the structures in place, but in terms of its efficacy in delivering the benefits to those who truly needed it, it failed. That only about a quarter of those that needed benefits, needed assistance in a crisis. And this is a quarter of those who are already in poor and challenged communities. Only a quarter of them ultimately got assistance.
The study has put forward recommendations.
That's moving towards electronic payments, moving towards using PATH as a platform for all kinds of distribution, because that's already a register, and taking advantage, as many of these panelists and speakers said, of local knowledge, community knowledge to identify the greatest need.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
More time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when you return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. A double murder in Granville Wednesday night has sparked a call from the councillor Michael Troop for tighter police measures in the community. Kirk Wright has the details.
Like in many depressed communities across the island, the root of the serious crimes in Granville is said to be gang-related. Last night, 28-year-old Ashani Holness and Jodian Roberts, also 28, became the latest victims. The two were sitting on the veranda along Gordon Crescent when they were shot. The deceased man's brother says he never knew him to be involved in crime.
That he love company, you know, but to me, apart from that, to me, I don't hear him name a call up say him shoot nobody or kill nobody. So I don't know. But to me, him alright to me. I can't tell you nothing more than that. More than me than here. Nobody ever come to me and say him involved in no murder, involved in these things. So I don't know. But it is what it is. And we have to move on.
Councillor for the area, Richard Troop, says the community began experiencing an upsurge in violent crimes sometime this year.
It started about 3 months ago when we have one murder, and the reprisals started from there. So there is a gang, a split gang. They split because of some infighting.
He says he's disappointed that violence has taken over the community, especially since it has recently seen improved infrastructure.
It's a time when Granville just completing $600 million infrastructure from JCF. Brand new clinic, brand new roads, infrastructure with water, infrastructure with light, and soon be getting a brand new police station.
Mr. Troop says there is police presence, but not the kind that's effective enough to calm the violence.
It wants much more than foot patrol. It wants coordinated search or searches, not stop a man, not ask him if he have any seatbelt or if he headlight the road car. It wants much more than that. It wants the police to come, stay in the area and do some searches, because the guns are here and they're not ordinary gun.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
And from the west to central Jamaica, there is a high police presence in Rocky Settlement, Clarendon. It comes following the shooting death of 21-year-old Brian Henry, a resident of the community. It's understood that Henry was among a group of people at a grave digging at the Rocky Settlement Cemetery on Thursday when he left to purchase items at a nearby shop. Now, shortly after loud explosions were heard, he was found suffering from gunshot wounds. Now, he was rushed to the Lioneltown Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, just days ago, a businessman was also killed in the community. Reactions this afternoon to the sentencing of a man who killed his girlfriend earlier this year. No, that should be his ex-girlfriend earlier this year. Now, Jermaine Miller will spend the rest of his life in prison. We've been speaking with the deceased woman's family. Anthony Lugg reports.
Up to Thursday, the family of Nevaeh Sinclair were in doubt that the deceased woman's ex-boyfriend Jermaine Miller would serve time for her murder.
Me say me buy the food for this morning and me tell him say me can't eat the food. For me have to wait to tell when time and sentence Jermaine first. Yes. For if then I sentence Jermaine to them, I feel to myself say, me are going to make it again. Because we have traveled too long now.
But sometime after 3 p.m. Thursday, news came that Miller was sentenced to life imprisonment when he appeared in the St. Elizabeth Circuit Court.
Well, justice served. Justice served. So me feel a little bit, just a little bit. So you know say, my daughter gone. In gone, so you know say,
you not get him back?
Me not go get him back, but at least.
Daniel got not sleep, man.
So
Daniel got not sleep.
So
we get justice.
It's been 18 months since Nevaeh was killed, and the family say from sleepless nights to flashbacks, it's been a struggle.
Up to last night, I never set me eye. We've been taking sleeping, doctor have to prescribe sleeping tablet for me. It's when it comes Sunday night, I don't know how.
Me feel like if me been only 100 years or 50 years, me not live more than 5. The rest take off. How the boy carry down me, man. Because Nevaeh is a girl where, when you see Nevaeh, all you see me, I laugh. You can see him teeth.
On the night of January 12, Nevaeh Sinclair was home with her relatives when screams were heard coming from her room. Checks were made and she was found lying on the floor. Her former boyfriend, Jermaine Miller, was seen running from the scene. The police were alerted and Sinclair was discovered with multiple stab wounds to her upper body. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Several people have been seriously injured in a mini bus crash along the Edward Seaga Highway close to Angels, St. Catherine. According to information received, the driver of the public passenger bus lost control of the vehicle, which flipped over. A 79-year-old woman is among those injured. The bus plies the Ocho Rios to Kingston route. 70 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed on Thursday. The country's overall case count is now 50,983. The positivity rate is now 7.9%. 4 new deaths were recorded, pushing the death toll to 1,140. In the meantime, 99 persons were hospitalized with the virus. 11 are critically ill and 24 are moderately ill. There are 5,278 active cases. And for the latest in the economy, here's Cody and Barrett with the Business Minute.
In the world of business, Jamaica has seen a decline in its total import and export bills this year. According to a recently released report from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, imports declined by 2.3% at $1,316 and exports declined by 0.1% at $354. The United States remains our top import and export trading partner. In the meantime, with recent reports of rising U.S. consumer prices, the president of Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Richard Pandohi, says businesses who are dependent on the U.S. will see an immediate increase in their cost structure and a reduction in their profit performance as they absorb some of the increases. He's hoping that this will provide the opportunity to push agriculture output and agribusinesses in an effort to reduce the country's $1 billion food import bill. Consumers are now being urged to shop wisely and as best as possible support local businesses as opposed to imported goods. Radio Jamaica Limited has seen a dip in profits for its financial year ended March 31, 2021. Its revenues saw a decline of 7.1% to $5.1 million. Gross profits were at $2.9 million, a 3.3% increase. Its net profits, however, saw an increase of $133,000. And in the business review this Sunday, is the bamboo furnishing industry still thriving? We find out. That's it for the...
Now for a look at the top regional and international stories.
24 women from Trinidad and Tobago and 70 children are still stuck in detention camps in Syria. Attorney Nafisa Mohammed has been advocating for them to return to the Twin Island Republic. In 2018, Professor of Criminology from the University of Kent, Dr. Simon Coty, found over 42 children had been taken by their parents from their Trinidad and Tobago homes to ISIS battlegrounds in the Middle East since 2015. In August 2020, the families of those being held at the Kurdish-run Al-Hol refugee camp in northern Syria filed judicial review proceedings in the High Court challenging a delay by Stuart Young, then National Security Minister, in having them repatriated. However, in April this year, Justice Joan Charles ruled there was neither a legislative nor a policy framework in place for repatriating nationals from conflict or war zones. Further afield, Colombia's President Ivan Duque announced on Thursday that there is enough evidence to implicate all of the Colombian men who have been detained or killed in Haiti with the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. He said, quote, "Based on everything we know, there are people who knew of this murder that was going to take place. On the other hand, it seems that inside that group, there were other people with different instructions," end quote. Earlier on Thursday, the Colombian National Police had said that some of these Colombian men believed that they were working on behalf of U.S. law enforcement to detain the president, not to kill him. And that's it for your Midday Roundup. I'm Shane Masters.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have your Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Reggae Boyz defender Amari Bell says the Jamaicans will not be taking Guadeloupe lightly in their second group stage game of the CONCACAF Gold Cup in Orlando this evening. Guadeloupe lost 3-1 to Costa Rica in their opener, but the 27-year-old left back says Guadeloupe are in the tournament for a reason.
You know, every team here is here through merit, so we have to just respect everybody. And, when we're playing against, Costa Rica or Guadeloupe, we'll respect them in the same way, and, we'll do everything we can to ensure that we get a victory.
Kickoff is at 5:30 Jamaica time. The Reggae Boyz blanked Suriname 2-0 on Monday. Forward Bobby Reid is not available for selection for today's game after testing positive for COVID-19 on Wednesday. At 7:30, Costa Rica will battle Suriname in the other group stage game. A Reggae Boyz victory and a Costa Rica win would secure spots in the quarterfinals for both teams. Six-time winners, the United States, have advanced to the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Gold Cup after defeating Martinique 6-1 in Group B action in Kansas on Thursday. In the curtain raiser, Canada defeated Haiti 4-1. Canada and the United States now joins El Salvador in the last 8 of the competition. In Group D action on Saturday, Grenada will battle Qatar, while Panama entertains Honduras. To cricket we go now, as the West Indies have been drawn in Group 1 of the ICC T20 World Cup alongside England, South Africa, Australia and 2 preliminary round qualifiers. In Group 2, it's India, Pakistan, New Zealand, Afghanistan alongside 2 preliminary round qualifiers. The T20 World Cup is set to run from October 17 to November 14 in the United Arab Emirates and Oman. The Caribbean side are the defending champions of the competition. Meanwhile, the West Indies will be looking to end their T20 series against Australia on a winning note as both teams meet in the 5th and final match of the series in St. Lucia this evening. The Caribbean side lost the 4th T20 by 4 runs on Wednesday. The Windies leads the series 3-1. The match bowls off at 6:30 Jamaica time. After the T20 series, both teams will turn their attention to a 3-match one-day international series next week in Barbados. After the ODIs, the Windies will welcome Pakistan to the Caribbean for 5 T20s and 2 test matches. And that is it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it's over to you.
Simon, there have been several cricket series, and we're not seeing any at Sabina Park in Kingston, Jamaica. What's happening with that?
Well, fans will have to be a little bit patient. Pakistan will be touring the Caribbean soon. 2 test matches will be at Sabina Park in Jamaica, so Jamaicans will have an opportunity to go and see the Caribbean side out in action.
Okay, well, that's it for the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, the sports and the production teams, have a good afternoon.